back. My first guest can be seen every weeknight on the #1 newscast in the country, NBC's Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. He's also the author of the brand new bestseller, The Greatest Generation. Please welcome Tom Brokaw. Thank you for coming.
I'm exhausted. I've been out trying to... You're the man who has everything, and I've been trying to find your Christmas present all day long.
Really?
Larry Flint's photographic guide to members of Congress. I think you're going to be very happy with it. No problem.
I'm looking forward to that issue.
It'll be wrapped in brown paper bags, you know.
Well, you know, we will talk about, because first of all, I do congratulate you on this book, which is a bestseller. You've got a bestseller on your hands here. But we have to talk about this because this is your life, this is your job, working the news. You've been doing this for many years. I don't think anybody can remember a crazier news day, or, you know, probably 3 days, probably 2 or 3 days. That's there, right. I think that's where right. You could turn on your TV and the president is being impeached in one box. They would do a split screen in the other box. Bombs are raining down on Baghdad, and then they would go to a third box, and the Jets were winning, actually. And it's become sort of like almost like a Brady Bunch opening montage where different world events are looking at each other kind of in the next, you know. It's an amazing, I mean...
It's a mutant Brady Bunch is the difference, however.
Yeah.
You know, they've grown a foot out of their head and, you know, and an arm is in the wrong place. I don't remember a time like this. You know, generally, political events happen along pretty conventional lines. But if you stop and think about it, in January of this year, the president was under investigation for suborning perjury, for obstruction of justice, for tampering with evidence, for having sexual relationships.
Rock star.
The first president to be convicted in the United States at 100% approval. He's our guy.
People just be in a giant mosh pit in America.
We've never been through anything like this. And
but the news media has gotten very good at taking a news story and sort of making it last. It must almost be frustrating because you've got all these amazing stories at once. There isn't even time to go into any of them. Yeah, we're at war, but also the president's being impeached, and this is going on, but that also happened.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about the Bob Livingston factor. No one expected that on Saturday morning when we were doing the coverage of the first.
That caught you guys completely by surprise.
Completely by surprise, and most of his friends as well as his critics on the House floor. I did think that when his voice changed timbre just a little bit, I thought, uh-oh, he's about to do something here. The last time I can remember such a stunning announcement was when Lyndon Johnson announced that he would not run for re-election at the height of Vietnam. That was an event of great magnitude, greater than this one, but nonetheless, I said to Tim Russert later, my colleague, I said, you know, we're like a couple of aging NFL cornerbacks. We have to adjust to this changing offense. Things are going on out there all the time on the field of play that you just don't anticipate anymore.
And no one, I don't think anybody can actually predict rationally or realistically what's going to happen anymore. I watch TV now, and for the first time I'm seeing all of the talking heads are going, we'll be back after this. They have no clue what's going to happen.
But they do it with great certainty. That's the thing that is so...
They do it better than I just did, yeah. I did want to ask you something about just your job, which fascinates me. I'm on the air with Andy we're just on for an hour every night, but we have the guests.
It seems like a lot longer, you know what?
Merry Christmas to you, too. But you're out there a lot, and you have to fill time a lot, especially in this news climate. They'll say, Tom, we don't know what's going on. You just got to start talking, and you've got to give the information as it comes. Have you ever completely zoned out on camera? You just decided, you left your body?
A lot of times what they'll do is if you're in a very heavy news flow, like they're bombing in Baghdad, and we've got correspondents in different places and so on, and I'm trying to write down a few thoughts, or there's a late development off to the side here, and they tell me at one point, and I fail to write down exactly where I'm supposed to go, and they can almost see it in the back of my eyeballs saying, please, God, speak into my ear one more time, tell me where I'm supposed to go next. I'm looking into the camera saying, and in Washington, all of these events are beginning to have a big impact on the events down there. Talk to me. So they don't always
and
get
you
to
just
that
start to go la-di-da-di-da.
I go, no.
The book, The Greatest Generation. This is... I want to get to this.
We're going to get to this.
Yeah, the book you just reached across and dragged across the desk.
Held up for those of you, right.
We're going to get to that. Why didn't you why weren't you a little more, just a little more obvious and reached over and hit me with it? You know? That's going to be the new trend, actually. And
actually, that's right.
I'm about to black out, so I should hit myself way too hard. The Greatest Generation, this is about the World War II generation of Americans. You have a lot of respect for them.
I do, and I think that the country, I think it has to do with the calendar. We're about to turn to the year 2000. We reflect back on the 20th century. These are the people who came of age in the Great Depression, went off and won the war, came home and built the country. Not all of them. There were some bad people in there, too, but by and large, collectively, there's never been a generation quite like this. They went from living in impoverished circumstances, with no power and no indoor plumbing and not knowing where the next meal was going to come from. Then they were asked to go off across the Pacific or across the Atlantic and fight these two great military machines, save the world, which they did, and then they came back and rebuilt their enemies and stared down communism and made it possible for you and me to have the kinds of jobs that we do and get paid these outrageous sums of money for mostly putting on makeup and reading out loud.
Well, my generation had to listen to REO Speedwagon. I mean, not a good group. Well, it's funny because you do get this collective, you do sense a little bit of guilt when you look at all that generation accomplished. You do feel a little bit of guilt. You say, oh my God, these guys did so much for our country. Well, our generation has not been, and in the book, I know that there's some people, I think it's, is it Andy Rooney in the book who says, well, other generations just haven't been tested the same way. It's not to say that our generation might not also rise to the challenge if we had to face something like that.
I think it's a fair comment, and I think most of those people believe that as well, because they're talking about their own children or their own grandchildren, and they're very proud at the levels of education that exist now, and how accomplished young people are with cyber technology, how much is being done in the world of science, the kind of instincts that young people have for going off into far corners of the world and helping people. People travel now a lot more than they did then. And they did have these two exceptional challenges in their life. First the Depression, then World War II, and then the Cold War. And what's so remarkable about them, they didn't fumble it.
Right.
They met the challenge. They rose to the occasion. And if they had not, we'd be living in a far different world today than if they had not made those fights and made those commitments once they came home.
Well, people should understand it's a book. There's a lot of personal anecdotes in the book and great stories. I mean, there's a message behind the book, but they're just really good stories. There's a character in here, Angie, who was from Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Right.
And it's you should tell people about this character, because these are some of the stories that are in the book.
Well, there's a group in Cambridge, Massachusetts, who grew up in a place called Cary Corner. You may even know about it, given your old days in Harvard. It was right around Harvard Yard. It was an Irish working-class neighborhood. They grew up fighting together, swimming together, playing ball together, going to the little Catholic school around the corner and getting their knuckles rapped by the sisters at the same time together. And when the war came, they all went off, scattered across the Pacific, across Europe to the war. And one of them, Angie, was on one of the islands out in the Pacific, and his squad had been in a very difficult time. They'd gotten no new supplies or food or anything, and they heard that there was a resupply coming in. And he sent a squad down there at night to make a midnight raid on this quartermaster corps, and all of a sudden he hears this familiar voice, and the guy says, "Hey, Angie, is that you?" And it was one of the guys from the neighborhood. And that's the lottery of life in those days. That these
They just found each other in the middle of the South Pacific.
Each other in the middle of the night in the South Pacific, and they come back and tell these stories. Now, the Romeo Club, which stands for Retired Old Men Eating Out, they still meet once a month, and they have dinner or lunch. There are 18 of them now, and they're bound by common experiences and common values. They're looking back on their lives, and they talk to each other about the good times mostly, not about the horrors.
Right.
That's the other enduring lesson of this book, I think, is that these are people who didn't whine or didn't whimper. They're so grateful for whatever they have now that when they get together or when you talk to them as individuals, they mostly say, oh, I didn't do any more than the next guy. It was a job that had to be done.
Yeah, they're humble. They're not looking for a pat on the back. And it's also fun just to flip through and see some of the faces that pop up in the book. Julia Child is in the book.
Julia Child.
And about her wartime role. And I was really surprised to see that. You know,
she
was she filleting people? What was she doing? You know?
She was too tall to get into the wave. She's about 6'3",
right.
you know, as you know. And so she was in the OSS, and she went out into Southeast Asia and worked in Burma and Indonesia. The war was spread all over the world. And
yeah.
when we said to her, what do you think you would have done if you hadn't gone into the war? And that hadn't changed her life, because she then married a man in the intelligence service and went to France, and that began her cooking career. She said, oh, I think I would have been an alcoholic, probably.
Which always looks nice on the resume, yeah.
Right.
Previous experience. The Greatest Generation is in stores now, and there's a documentary based on the book. It's going to air on January 15th on NBC, and congratulations, really, on the book.
Thank you.
And we love having you here. Thank you for doing it again.
My pleasure.
Tom Brokaw, everybody. Caroline Ray is coming up. Tony Bennett later on. We'll be right back.